Yo, what up, everybody? I'm Dave Miranda, and this is episode 27 of Just Give Me 5. I hope you guys are doing well, continue to be great. We got a really awesome show lined up today. But if you guys caught episode 26, though, you saw we had the one and only Wordsworth. And let me tell you, that was awesome. That was awesome. You know, because especially when he was talking about the Lyricist Lounge show, because when that came out, I was, I want to say I was like a senior in high school around that time, and I just thought it was so brilliant the way that they, you know, put it together, you know, because you know, it was like having like hip hop in like a play form, sort of say, you know, and to have it on MTV, you know, that was dope, man, and you know, him being the co-creator of it, you know, and then him having, you know, evolving into a teacher, you know, him releasing a book. I mean, guy's had a hell of a career, you know, he really has. And, you know, just so honored to have him on the show, you know. So nothing but love and respect to Wordsworth, and make sure you guys watch episode 26. All right. But today's guest is another individual who has had a powerful impact in the scene for over 2 decades now, being the founding member of the hip-hop collective Avenue of the Arts. His album, Unplug, that he released back in the day, did very well for him and got him a record deal, and he was able to tour the world. We're gonna talk about some of that. Since then, he has actually started a Sunday School Beats podcast. It's a movement that he has going on with DJ Organic. And we're going to touch on that as well because they're doing some really awesome stuff. Guy's got a story, and we're going to get right into it now. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you Ill Al.
What's up? This is Ill Al Allen, and all I'm saying is just give me 5. I have 2 older brothers that are deep into music, and they both were in bands, different bands during like the 80s and the 90s. And one of my older brothers was in a really like successful band, I think they're still around, called Second Skin. And my oldest brother, he like opened up for Gin Blossoms and all this stuff way back in the 80s. Like, so I'd always see them, you know, making music, practicing. I'd hear them in the garage, you know. My brother Paul played bass, and they had drum machines. Back then, they would just use drum machines as like, if their drummer wasn't, you know, available and they couldn't set it all up, they would just have it run a drum track so they could practice.
Right.
But it was one of those things where I was inspired by seeing them do it. It just looked cool. It seemed fun. It was like a good time. And then ultimately, I ended up inheriting some of that equipment, like the TR-707, this Roland TR-707, this old Zenith microphone. And, you know, fast forward to high school, I meet this cat. I think we were in Saturday school suspension or something like this.
Right.
And it is nothing to do. You're just sitting in a cafeteria, literally just staring. And I can hear through his headphones, Old Dirty Bastard, right? And it's that, I think it was Shimmy Shimmy Ya or something like this. So I went over there after we were done, and I'm like, hey man, you're listening to Wu-Tang? Now, Wu-Tang back in, this must have been 93, 94, wasn't something like it is now. Almost no one knew who Wu-Tang was. Right. Literally, if you ask somebody, you know, do you ever heard of Wu-Tang? They're like, what is that, like, you know, Kung Fu rap or some shit? They didn't know what you were talking about. But we ended up connecting on this, so it was just like, holy shit, somebody else who knows who Wu-Tang is. This is like a relatively underground, I don't even think they did the thing with Fab Five Freddy yet. So we became fast friends through this music. And he had like a rudimentary set of belt-driven turntables for whatever reason, and he was kind of messing with those. One of those things where you scratch, let go, and it picks up real slow, you know, there's no direct drive. And he ended up picking up a Tascam 4-track like recorder. So I would go to his spot, bring my TR-707, we'd plug, you know, I'd make some basic step edit drum tracks and freestyle over these things on these 4-track recorders. He would add sounds with his, you know, his turntables. Right. And just by doing those, like, I fell in love with it. It was a blast because, like, I didn't even think about this, but we would take those cassettes, play them in the car, and that feeling of playing your music in the car was insane. Showing it to people and having them be like, dude, you could rap, you know, this is actually pretty good. And I always freestyled, like, since I was a little kid, like this was what we did at school. But this was something different. So I ended up taking those tapes and I would go over to Guitar Center. They had this like cassette tape duplicator, and I would throw it in there and just like start creating a bunch of cassettes, making my own art, printing it out, and I would sell these tapes out of a briefcase at Metro Center Mall. Rest in peace, Metro Center. And I was like, oh shit, I can make money doing this, So, and I would sell a lot of tapes, which was funny too, because some of those cassette recordings came back blank. They didn't record. So I would hear from people sometimes, you sold me a blank tape. Like, dude, I didn't mean to.
Yes, sir.
Oh well, I didn't mean to. I got your $10. I got hooked. I was like, this is insane that I can literally make a living off of something that I'm just having fun with, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm skipping in there, but that's where I found that creative passion for it. It's just like when you get around certain people and they're like a muse, like they inspire you to create something and you get excited about, well, what can we come up with, like the whole vibe of it. So that's probably what it was, like the beginning, I would say, for me. It's just those 4-track Tascam recorded tapes, with Soups back in the 90s, AOTA it's one of those things where it kind of goes into what I was just talking about, where like, if I was making these tapes, and tapes turned into CDs, this, that, and the other thing. You're still doing the same thing. You're selling them, but you meet people along the way that are also like-minded and into music. And so that same cat that I met back in high school had moved out to Los Angeles. Like we had graduated out of high school, and he moved out to LA and started working at this store, legendary spot called 24/7. It was right on Melrose in Los Angeles. And there would be open mics there. He's just working retail, just doing the thing. And I had met all these dudes out here in AZ, and we put a little group together, and we would make a bunch of records. It's just kind of like just figuring out what it is we're doing with music, like I'm on my own music journey, they're on theirs, but like, let's do this together, So we're all recording stuff, and then we would take these trips out to hang out with my homie in LA, and we would get on those open mics. We'd get there, and it was more of just like a fun trip. This wasn't for music necessarily. We were just visiting my friend. But we would hit those open mics, and it would be, I quickly found out, I mean, it was cats like, this dude's Subtitle. I don't know if you guys know who Subtitle is. He worked there. I'm like in a freestyle session with this cat all of a sudden, it would be like Mir One would come in and drop posters off and, stand there for a little bit. Dudes randomly from Freestyle Fellowship would just be in there, and they would get on the mic with us, like in between. And really, it was an opportunity. I don't think they knew that we were studying, but it was an opportunity to learn, like a lot. And we would always try to get out there as much as possible to get on that mic, hang out, just soak up the culture, soak up the whole environment, because LA around that time was killing it with like all those cats from Project Below, like Tumax, Visionaries, all those dudes. And it's crazy because we would also go back to my homie's house at the end of it, because we'd stay out there. He'd have these magazines, and I'm going through these magazines and seeing these same dudes I was just looking at the store, hours earlier in this magazine, and different ads, especially Visionaries. Like they were in these Puma ads and stuff like that. Time goes on, as music goes, people go their different directions, and I'm still friends with all those guys that I was, doing music with, but it turned into one of those things where I had to get a job and get serious about this thing, because selling CDs and cassettes is not going to cover the bills at some point. So I took this job again at Metro Center Mall called Underground Station, and I'm in there with this dude who I could tell, everyone in there was in love with hip hop. It's a hip hop store, right? But this dude was something special about him, and we would get back there, and you get the shipment in, and you're stocking, you're just throwing shoes on a thing, you have 1,000 boxes. And to pass time, we would just, freestyle, start going back and forth, and we connected through rap. This dude is this cat, Ohm, right? And Ohm is, to me, one of the best MCs I've ever met. Like, this dude is insane. There's some natural talent to him. And he would do these things. We first started off because he would, I think it was back when, like, Throw Them Bows was on the radio. Ludacris, right? And he would rap that when it would come on the little Muzak station or whatever it was, but he would change all the words. So same exact patterns, same exact intonation, cadence, but all different words. And I was like, how are you doing that, you know? And he would do that with a bunch of different songs. He was like, I do it just to practice, you know? He's like, I want to pick up patterns, but, you know, I'm changing the structure of it to basically grow as a musician. Meanwhile, all of the verses that I was doing at the time were pretty much in the same pocket. I would just, one of those dudes that would approach every song, I'm gonna rap this way, you know? So it became monotonous after one. He would kind of nudge me. He was one of the first people that would like criticize me harshly. And I appreciate him for doing that, because he would say, man, you gotta stop with this like monotone, like he's like, get out, you know, go places with it, you know, follow the bass line, or switch up and follow, like, if there's a horn section, follow that. And I would pretty much workshop with him, you know, on music, just going back and forth. So me and Ohm spent a lot of time together rapping. There's another cat too that worked there. He used to go by Janitor, right? And the Janitor is, to me, one of the best, you know, as well. Just legendary rapper. I don't even know where he is nowadays. So Janitor, if you see this, what's up, man? But that dude, he was another one of them that he introduced me to the Living Legends. I was like, as far as like being a fan, I already knew who they were, but like he really kind of like got me hyped on like their whole approach to music. It was basically like a more relatable Wu-Tang to me. You know what I mean? That whole group. And the way they approach mixing and like really putting an importance on my mixdowns and my recordings and stuff like this. So with that, I'm like, oh, let's record. You know, I would record Janitor, and I started recording these dudes back and forth. And meanwhile, through doing this, putting music out, I started meeting all these other cats. Like I met this dude, this graffiti writer, but he also rapped. He goes by Audio Oddwell. I met this cat. Bunch of different people, and I met Stereotype. Rest in peace, Aim Dugan. And we would start going to Stereotype shows with these same dudes I'm recording with, and they would just be killing it. Like their stage presence and everything, they were, you know, people were coming to see them. And so we would go to these Stereotype shows. Ohm would get on and perform. A lot of these were at the spot called Lucky Dragon back in the day. Shout out to Johnny Chu. And so through this whole like process, we would kind of like, it was the logical thing. Like we should start booking shows together, you know? And it became more of this whole, let's improve our stage presence. Let's improve like our abilities to like book a tour, you know, and get out of here. Let's record for a reason instead of just for the hell of it. Let's record a record, promote it, and tour on it, you know, like in a proper structure. So that's kind of like AOTA sort of formed out of necessity, basically. It was like, we need each other, you know? Arizona isn't necessarily known, especially back then, as a spot that was real hip hop friendly. We would go to book shows and the promoters would be like, we don't do hip hop here, you know, just straight up, no. So we had to kind of like grease those wheels, as it were, you know. And there was a not Blow Up Co-op. Blow Up Co-op was a crew from out here that was kind of ahead of us, right? And they were the Tim P cats. It was like Drunken Immortals, and there was Antidote that was doing stuff. There's like all these other groups, but they were like these huge bands, and it was, I think, easier. They were the trailblazers, really. It was easier for them to book because it made more sense, I think, to a lot of venues. It's like, okay, this is like a rock band or something, you know? Not to mention the fact that they're insanely good. So here they are doing their thing, and but we're these Phoenix cats from the far west side, you know, like we're in the avenues, you know? And how do we get on with these other dudes? How are we gonna do this? That's kind of where the name starts to come about. It was also the halfway point between me and Audio Oddwell. Was a street called Avenue of the Arts, right? And we're like the avenues. So we're Avenue of the Arts. That's just us. We're AOTA, you know? And so we kept recording, kept doing music, started booking shows together, and you know, no one showing up turned to 10 people, turned to your friends showing up. Then that turns into 30 people, 40 people, then no one again, as you guys know how it works. And then we started, you know, really servicing records, touring properly, doing college radio stuff, and it turns into 100 people showing up, 200 people doing festivals, and all of us individually taking our connections and putting them together to benefit each other, you know? And also taking kind of back what I was saying with Ohm into heart, and being really critical on each other. That's one of the things Avenue of the Arts that a lot of people don't know, is we were really brutal with each other back then. Just like, dude, you record a song, you'd be like, that shit sucks. You know, they'd be like, that was terrible. And the reason why we want to do that is because we wanted you to get better before you put something. So And if you don't do that, man, you yes each other to death. You agree with each other. Oh, man, that track is amazing. You know, you don't go anywhere. You almost have to be really brutal with each other. But that's sort of how AOTA came about. I left AOTA in 2014. At some point, you got to like move, you know, out of the way, because Avenue's still going to this day. It's kind of crazy because I think it officially started, this is debatable, probably like around, I would say 2000, 2001, right? I think that's when I gave it the name back then, and I had to convince these guys to join, and then it sort of evolved over the years. But around 2014, a lot of new cats came in, and myself and a couple of the other guys stepped out just to sort of make way. You can stagnate things if you get. I'm not really like writing raps like that anymore, you know, and I have a daughter, you know, which is like the most important thing to me. So I'm not trying to leave and tour, you know. So yeah, it's still evolving, still going, and it's one of those things where I see little cousins and like people's brothers and sisters, everyone, you know, for generations now, like 2 generations at least of people that know about it, which is pretty cool, you know, like seeing it grow and continue. 3 of my greatest tour memories. That's an interesting one because a lot of things that happen on tour I wouldn't say on camera, you know what I mean? They're great stories for a bar. Not meaning I did anything nefarious. Maybe other people did. I don't want to put their business out there. I'm a saint. I am a saint. No, but like the things that are memorable, though, I would say, if I whittle it down to what I took away from it, and what really matters is some of the crazy things, like the fact that you wrote a verse in a place that you live with no one else around, worked on it, recorded it, and then at some point after you put it on a record and put it out and serviced it correctly, you end up in a state where you walk out on a stage, because at some point you go from bars to theaters, you know, this type of thing, and theaters to arenas if you're Jay-Z or something, who knows. But I got to a theater level of things, opening up for certain people that I would see in those same magazines, you know, back in the day, and already like just in shock by all of this happening, you know. I remember once, I think it was at the Knitting Factory or something. I don't know where, I think it was Knitting Factory. I came out and I started my first song. I was saying something and everyone followed me with it, you know? Now, mind you, we had serviced the record out there. We had been putting it out. I'd come out a couple times and I started, I think it was like This Old House or something from Unplugged. And everyone said it at the same time with me. We were saying the words, and I was like shocked by this, you know? Like, I'm used to it at home, you know, like back in 2005, 2006, you know, it's all friends, you know, all friends and families, you know, but complete strangers. And, you know, here and there was like Power Trip was another song. People would just know the words. They'd know what to do during the hook. And I think for anyone who's worked their ass off and got to the point where like people care and are invested in your music and they learn the lyrics and say it with you, has that same feeling, I'm sure, at some point, like, holy shit, you know? So that's one of the main things. The other thing that was cool was just the fact that like I was traveling, you know, like this thing that you do as we all start, you do it for fun. You don't think about this is going to eventually, you know, you just don't think about that kind of stuff. But the fact that I think you had Master Ace on recently, right, on the show.
Correct, yeah.
And I mean, I got to meet Master Ace like at Scribble Jam in Cincinnati, I believe it was. And like, just meeting all these cats, like, you know, going to places I never thought I would end up. Just based off of music. And a lot of times, I mean, we were just traveling in this like 15-passenger van, and you're in there with a bunch of smelly feet, and you know, but you're, you know, you're looking out the window thinking like, I can't believe that just doing music is, you know, affording me the opportunity to get out here and meet all these people. So really, those are the things that stick with me. It's just being, I guess, grateful for the fact that it worked, you know. And just the opportunities to meet, you know, all those people. I'm still friends with all the cats that I toured with back then. You know, shout out to all the Visionaries and 2Max, Gray Skull, all those cats. Those dudes are amazing. And I'm sure I'm going to forget a bunch of people, but it was just, if you're doing music, you know, and it's something that you love to do, and you start putting shows together, especially as the world opens up again. Yeah, don't forget to look out the window sometimes and think about, you know, how much fun it is, especially if you're in your early 20s, you know what I mean? Because at some point you're gonna have to hunker down and you know, take care of your family and stuff like that. But it's a good time. It's a fun adventure, you know. I'd say that's the most memorable thing, is the adventure of it. Yeah, man, Sunday School Beats. So, sort of, I guess, following that journey, I would say, like, it's one of those things where, I had a daughter, right? So I stopped doing music, stopped touring, put all that aside, because nothing's more important than that. You focus on that, and so I set music aside for a long time and just focused on work. And building, and actually, I'm lucky that my career is using the same skills that I picked up along the way doing music. So during this hiatus, I would still do some production. Like, I did some recording and things like this, recorded for other people, but ultimately wasn't really making anything and then this pandemic situation happens, right? Yeah. And the whole world shut down. Now, this affected me. I'm lucky that like less than it affected certain people. Like, my partner in Sunday School Beats, this dude, DJ Organic, shout out to Organic. Yeah. He's a working DJ, so his whole entire world revolves around being at the spot, playing music for people. So it shut his world down. And he moved to on Instagram. He's an insane production cat, producer. So he moved to Instagram making these themed beats. So he would take like horror movie themes, like music, and make a whole set of beats out of that. Or he would take just anything really. And then he ended up taking Sunday School Beats was like a thing where he would take religious records. He's not a religious cat. I'm not a religious cat, but we have no issues with religion either. Spiritual people, I'm sure. But he would go and find these religious records, and you could find those everywhere in Arizona. It's just like there's a ton of them. And so he would go and find these records, and there's so many different genres of religious music, as it were. You have all kinds of stuff. So he'd pick up these records and then start making beats out of them, and he created this, another one of those series called Sunday School Beats. So every Sunday he'd put one of those up. I see him doing this, and I'm, just watching it happen. And I've worked with Organic before a couple times in the past, and I always enjoyed working with him. But this is one of those things where I was kind of moved to hit him up. And I'm like, hey man, I have a drum machine in the closet that I need to like get out and dust off. Will you help me like get this thing working with some of this other equipment that I'm working with? And we're in the process of doing that. We're talking about his project, Sunday School Beats. And I'm like, dude, we should take this, what you're doing, and get like a podcast around this, Like, he was already thinking about opening it up to everybody, and like, so me and him just sort of put our heads together, and it was a thing where it's like, let's do an entire project of this where you put the sample up. Everyone can download the sample. Anyone who's a producer, anyone who's not a producer and just wants to get in, right? And make something out of it. And it's sort of like the way it ended up now is that you make your beat, you download it on Sunday. We have a website for it, sundayschoolbeats.com. You go and get the sample, you download the sample, create it on whatever you use, MPC, MK3, Koala, whatever, your app, anything. You can add bass lines, guitar, you can rap on it if you want, do whatever you want. Then you put your beat up on Sunday at midnight. And it's at this point, it started out, and it was one of those things too where Organic's like, nobody's gonna do this. He was telling me, nobody's gonna do this. Right. I'm one of those cats that's like, no, everyone will do this. You know what I mean? I'm like, and even if they don't, who cares? We tried. Sure. And within no time, I think the first one had 10, 15 producers in it. It was like right away. At this point, it's like sometimes we have almost 40 producers doing it, which is insane. Right. And everyone puts their beat up. We all use the hashtag Sunday School Beats to find each other. Yeah. And what I love about this thing is for the cat that's just coming in, somebody who's not really putting their music out there. I've seen dudes who have an Instagram page with beats already going that no one listened to. Yeah. Then they try a Sunday School Beats, sample challenge, put the hashtag on it, and like 30 or 40 comments are in there, and like, 20, 30 likes, you know what I mean? That's huge to somebody who had none, prior, So you're getting feedback, you're starting to like really hone your skills. And what's cool about that is then we take all those beats, right, and they're connected to some video, whatever you have, and we put them into a wrap-up video. We throw that on youtube.com, Sunday School Beats, right? And that is kind of like a playlist of that week. You can just go listen to it. Some people tell us that they like listen to it while they're working out and stuff, which is kind of cool. But then we take that same wrap-up and we do a whole podcast show around it every Monday at 5 p.m., right? and we'll have a guest. And we've had like crazy guests, you know, like come on, like my buddy Fee from Jabberwockies has come on. We've had just like all kinds of people. You know, Matlock. We had Matlock on there. I'm trying to think of people that you would know as well too. But like tons of different people that are like super interesting and fun to talk to. We have my buddy Bree that I went to grade school with come on. Like he's just an insane like cat. Hilarious the things he says, like out of nowhere. You ever had a bloomin' onion? Like things like this, just ridiculous conversation. Like, yes, we have. And my buddy Kordek from Avenue of the Arts runs the background of it, and so he's like this unseen artificial intelligence entity, sort of. He's just like making things pop up and runs it in the background, and it's live, so we have people come in and chat, and it's just this really fun, interactive workshop of beats. Even your camera guy, Jimmy, he's jumped in as well and done some beats for it. His video work is insane, as you're probably seeing right now, you know? And it's just a blast. Like Sunday School Beats is one of those things where it's like ever evolving and constantly, you know, moving and changing and shaping. And so if you're watching this, thanks for having me on, by the way. And like, if you want to get involved, just go to the website, sundayschoolbeats.com, download the sample and just go. You know, don't be afraid. It's a really positive community. There's a Discord where people get on there and like exchange like production ideas, and we've had Megaran on as well, and we've even thought about doing things where like we're gonna make beats and then, you know, it's not a contest, but you could maybe get something to where maybe Megaran raps on it or something, or maybe you rap on it or anything. You know what I mean? You never know. So there's a lot of cool developing opportunities for just creativity and fun and a way to connect during this time where we're all so distanced, you know? It brought a lot of people together, and I think gave a lot of people something to look forward to every Sunday. And it's not gonna stop, we're still doing it. There's still new things coming up. We have like a really cool project coming up soon, so check for that. And yeah, I love it. And I dove back into making beats again, you know, like fully. And it's got me creative again, you know, like as far as music goes. And I needed that, you know. It's crazy, like, because I've seen the other ones, you know, and I know you asked this question about how does it feel to know I'm extremely special? Is that the wording?
Extremely loved.
Extremely loved.
Yeah, you're special.
The special part I take issue with. I don't feel special, honestly. And the way that my mind approaches it is that I think the faster, or at least the sooner, that people realize that we're not special, the better, you know? Because it would, in an ideal world, you would feel like everyone's special, so you would treat them that way. But what happens is people end up feeling like I'm special, so they treat other people like shit, you know? That's usually how it works. And I think if we stop feeling so fucking special, you know what I mean, and just start realizing we're all basically the same, with different social, you know, situations going on, but that are important to acknowledge. But if you stop feeling so like unique and you start to then, I think, see people at an equal level and start treating people with a lot more respect and like care, and be like, you know what, I know you're going through shit too, probably. You know, we all are. We all have things going on, and there's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about anyone, you know. But to somebody, we're special, and for that, you know, I'm sure my daughter thinks I'm special. I think she's special, you know. And that's when that ideological aspect of special, I think, works, you know. But when you're out on the street and you're bumping into somebody, you just got to remember, like, I'm not special, you know. Like, I don't need to treat this person shitty because I'm me, you know. No one's an extra, you know. We're not walking around in the world the star of a show and everyone else is extras, you know. Everyone has like layers and layers of complex things going on, you know. And that's sort of how I literally live, like, you know, day to day. I just kind of walk around knowing that like everybody has shit going on, you know. I try to treat them accordingly, and you never know what people are carrying with them, you know. But the extremely loved part, honestly, yeah, you know, like, who doesn't love that? You know what I mean? Like, you want to feel loved and you want to feel supported. I think people need each other in order to make it, you know. I think as long as it's like for the right reasons, you know, and it's not fear-based, you know, like you love people because it's like the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you, you know. And a lot of that comes into play with empathy. You just have to be empathetic to other people's it's one of those weird things, and I don't mean to get dark on you, but it's one of those things where in reality, like, you're born alone, you'll die alone, right? And you're sort of, at the end of the day, you gotta love yourself, right? And you gotta go through life treating other people with that they're dealing with that same reality. A lot of the things that people do in life are fear-based, you know? So if you walk around, you can't walk around fearless, you know, necessarily. You gotta be, you do wanna operate with some sense of self-preservation and love for everybody, and understanding and empathy for the fact that we're all like just trying to make it, you know? And we're all doing our best. I think people are generally speaking very good, and there's a lot of good out there, and there's a lot to love. So for me, it feels good to be extremely loved. I don't know how much people love me, but you know, I know who I love, and I know those people who love me know who they are, and I appreciate you. And so, yeah, that's, I know, a bit of a long-winded answer, but it's, you know, something I think takes a little bit of thought, you know, to answer honestly. So, yeah, feels good. So I definitely want to shout out my family. Shout out to everybody who loves me. Shout out to my daughter. Shout out to my baby mama. And shout out to everybody who supported my music, and you know, all the AOTA cats, you know, past and present, you know, everyone that we lost, you know, rest in peace to all those cats. Shout out to them and their journey. And shout out to you guys for doing this. Shout out to Jimmy. Jimmy, I know you said you were just a kid, man, like way back in the day. And shout out to you, Miranda, man. I appreciate you having me on. All the cats in Sunday School Beats, all of you. Shout out to all you guys. And yeah, man, just shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody. This is, we made it. We're on the tail end of some craziness. By the time you're watching this episode, things are probably opened up even more. We're on the tail end of some craziness. So shout out to you guys for making it, and being tolerant, and being, like, you know, peaceful, and enjoying each other's art during this time of weirdness, you know what I mean? But we made it, you know what I mean? And here we go. We're gonna keep going. That's pretty much it, man. So shout out to everybody. I appreciate it.
And there you have it. Nothing but love and respect to Ill Al, man. You know, thank you so much for being on the show. You know, that guy has had a run, you know, and you know, a lot of those were taking me back, man. You know, really taking me back. So nothing but love and respect to you, my brother. You know, I wish you the best. Continued success. Make sure you guys are following him on social media. Shout out to my brother Jimmy Nelson on that camera. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. And man, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This is another one for the books. And so continue to be well. Till next time, stay tuned, stay blessed, stay healthy, and just give me 5, y'all.